Good morning, how are you? It is I, Paige, layle, and we're here to talk about autism and stuff. Stuff today that we're going to talk about is the autism community. I know that sounds very vague, so you're going to have to stick around and find out what we're talking about. Also, if you wish that I had a better camera that was at a further distance away so that we could see the shelf above me and see my book and not have it cut off, subscribe to my Patreon. That's my next intended purchase. Link in bio. Book available wherever books are sold. So to start off, I asked the autistic community in my YouTube community vibe tab in my YouTube community, and I had this little poll, and this is what you guys answered to when I asked about like what are your experiences with the autism community. And after I wrote these answers, I was like, I feel like I kind of know where everyone's gonna pick. I know what I would pick, also because it's the most specific answer of them all and most nuanced, I think. So results kind of like went with prediction there, with the vibe being that there are autistic spaces where you feel good, but there are autistic spaces that are not super vibey. Also, only 40% of you follow me. Jeez Louise, guys, subscribe, please. I don't like asking, but like, hey, 40%? I'm like, come on, 40%? Guys, subscribe. Maybe it's because I don't ask. Maybe I actually have to ask. Maybe I should ask. Hey guys, subscribe, like this video, and also notification bells for those community tab things if you want to vote on polls like this so you can have your opinion in the vid. So I'm talking a lot about an autism community. What the heck is an autism community? The autism community? The autistic community? I'm talking about primarily, mainly online. On the internet. There are more autistic spaces online than there are spaces in person. So a lot of the autistic spaces that I'm talking about happen to be online spaces. Why? Well, first of all, it's the most easily accessible. And when we browse the internet, we are being safe by using what? A VPN. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you go to nordvpn.com/page to check out our special deal. Because you and I care about internet safety. And we know that there are hackers out there. There's fakes out there. There's all kinds of phishing. No, I don't want people to know where I am. I don't want people to know what I'm doing. Why get a VPN other than just internet safety? Getting content from all over the world. I don't have Netflix anymore. I have Prime Video. They've got Attack on Titan on Prime Video. Not in Canada, though. 12 other countries I could connect to, though. In Lithuania. Boom. Kung Fu Panda. Parasite. You gotta watch Parasite's a really good movie. Only if you're in Japan or Thailand, which I am. Not only does NordVPN come with threat protection, which means they scan every file you click on, every link you click on, every website you're going to go to, and tells you if it's a bad one or not. Not only is it the fastest VPN on the planet, but accessing content from all over the world, unmatchable. Have y'all ever been abroad and you really need to use your phone, but they've got like one Wi-Fi spot in the whole 10 kilometers? Okay, we all know what it's like to need Wi-Fi and not be able to get it. Especially any of us who travel. Those of y'all who travel know how important it is to have an eSIM card and how much safer you feel traveling knowing that you have Wi-Fi wherever, whenever, without paying all those stupid roaming fees. So NordVPN's partnering with layle. Download it once, and then you're always connected wherever you roam, 150 different countries. I think there's like 196 countries in the world. Yes, I believe it's just under 200. So that's most countries. So sign up right now, nordvpn.com/page. Sign up with a 2-year plan for NordVPN. You'll get 4 months bonus for free, plus up to 10 gigabytes of layle data for your eSIM card. Link is below in the description. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring this video. I know that I'm not anonymous online, but my internet history is, thanks to NordVPN. Raise your hand if you're autistic and you had trouble making and keeping friends in childhood. Raise your hand if you're autistic and you just have trouble with friends in general. Raise your hand if socializing is hard and you're autistic. Right. A lot of autistic people grow up without a solid friend base and system because of how we are, perceived by others and how we communicate and how others communicate. But then the social isolation that is caused by that doesn't help, and that can lead to a lot of loneliness. But all human beings deserve connection. That's like one of the core parts about being a human. That's like one of the things that we want and need is connection with others. So honestly, you've got a lot of lonely autistic adults. You got a lot of lonely autistic people in general. And autistic adults have access to the internet. So the internet has made it a lot easier for autistic people to connect. We know that the population that knows that they are autistic is a number in the 1% of human people. That's not a lot. That's not too many. The internet is a space for those people to all congregate in one space at once, which would not happen in real life because they're all from different parts around the world. You guys are from everywhere. I'm from Canada. But online communication is also a different kind of communication. communication with different rules and expectations and consequences. For example, if you just completely biff a social interaction in real life, every person's going to react differently. But if you recognize it, you may feel embarrassed. You may feel like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. I can no longer talk. What do I do? Where do I move? What's next? I don't know what to say next. How do I back out of this? If you biff a conversation on the internet, I mean, if you're super embarrassed, you can just block them. And then you don't have to deal with any of the repercussions. You don't have to respond to people. You can edit your own thoughts before you say them. You can type something, look at it. Like, those are the words that I want to say and put on the internet. Submit. You can hide behind a fake name and profile altogether. It is way easier to interact with humans online as an autistic person. It's safer. It's also safer, or feels safer, when an autistic person like yourself, like myself, like when I find a space that is autistic people in the space. Like a space that is specifically designed for autistic people to come, and so the space is mostly autistic people. That can look like in person, things like groups, like just groups that come and hang out, whether that's social groups or, you know, there's always those like autism mom groups. Maybe they're online, maybe it's a Discord server, maybe it's my Patreon. That's an autism community. An autism community. Because if there's one thing I can say about the autism community is that there's not one. Yup. Everyone agrees on this. This is what every autistic person thinks, and everyone's the same. Autistic people cannot get a consensus on anything. But like, can you say differently about any other group of people? Like, why would autistic people all agree just because they're all autistic? Just because everyone's autistic doesn't mean that they've had the same life experiences, they've grown up with the same traumas and have the same perspectives and are protecting themselves in the same ways. Most people are not healed from childhood. So we have a lot of autistic people online connecting with each other, but when it comes to the autism community, that's an abstract concept. That's a societal construct that doesn't, I guess, really exist. But sometimes they clash and intersect, and autistic people meet other autistic people from different autistic groups, and a lot of people don't agree with each other. There comes a time in every late diagnosed autistic person's life where they stumble across autism on the internet, where they stumble across autistic people online. And it's often late diagnosed autistic people, because the early diagnosed autistic people, although they are here, hello, it is the late diagnosed autistic people that are joining every day. And there's layers of the autistic community to go through once you begin, and it evolves every day. So me even saying what it is right now, it could be redundant in a year, because it's nothing like it was when I started. When I entered the autism community, there wasn't one. I mean, and I'm from Canada, so I started talking online and everyone was like, shut the fuck up. But now you can go spaces, there are places, there are subreddits, there are whole ass creators that just talk about autism and stuff. People want to know more about autism. They want to learn more about autism. People are learning that they are autistic a lot quicker. I would almost say it's almost looking exponentially. And on a personal opinion, no, Paige, I think like so many people are autistic. Like, I think we've really been underdiagnosing people for real. Side note, but I've started branding. And anyway, I've created a logo and I've created like an idea. And I'm just popping in right now to tell you about it, I guess, because I just want to talk about it for some other parts in this video just in case. But this is the logo that I chose. I drew it myself. I drew it based off the tattoo that I have on my arm. Now showing the tattoo. His name is Herman. But I also want to talk about why I chose a bee. One, because I love their wings. I love fairies. I was wanting to do like a fairy, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do a fairy and not make it super feminine. I couldn't find out how I wanted to do a fairy well, but I love their wings. I've always wanted to fly. Bees shouldn't be able to fly. It's hilarious. But I also feel like I didn't quote this, so I want to just triple check that it is Connor Wolf that said this. Oh my god. Yeah, so Connor DeWolf talks about the bees in his head, feeling like there are bees in his head, and I'm like, that's all my thoughts are, like a bunch of bees in my head. Now I'm looking at his thing and I'm like, well, his thing is a little bee. That's cool. I feel like honestly he does look like the like masculine version of me, to be honest, so that makes complete sense. I think we're both ADHD, so it makes sense. Going to Disney? Okay, well now I'm just getting excited. Now I'm just looking at Connor's stuff. Might have to change it. But then even more than that too, there's another thing more than that. You guys know how I say that every autistic person is different. We're all so different, but we're all so important, and every one of our voices is valuable and matters and is valid. All of our perspectives are real and true, and we all live such different lives, autistic lives, but that have all impacted us differently. And I think that we learn something, not only just from every person in general, but we definitely learn more about autism from every autistic person. At least I find that I do, and I have found that over these years that I've been doing this. And I see myself as just another worker bee here for the hive. Like, yeah, I am myself and I am autistic. This is just one little bee from the whole beehive, working to a greater goal, having different lives, but just being bees. Also, I love bees. I love bees. I love bees. I love flowers. I love flowers. That's also, I'm like, I am a bee amongst all the flowers. I'm always like, ooh, ah, da, 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 da. I wanted something that was like gender neutral. Anyway, shut up. I'm talking about the autism community. No, this is a good segue, actually. I'm talking about the autism community. I'm talking about the Paige layle community. Hello. I'm going to tell you more about like the community that I want, the community that I expect this to be at the end. But I'm also going to reference the bee thing sometimes, because you guys know that sometimes I just have like a random thought that like I just have to go with. I think of that as like there are bees in my head, and then a bee just like left the hive, and I'm like, ah, and I just follow that bee, and then I'm like, okay, and back. Oh, like a bee just bzz. When I get off track, I'm going bzz, and then coming back in. If you do that, that's why. That's a thing now, I think. I think that's a thing now. I've heard that people are doing that now. There are a lot of people in the autism community, and that's why I didn't say the autistic community, because we can't guard it off. We can't do that. It's actually kind of weird, you know? Like, it makes sense in like in the mind, but when it comes to online spaces too, we can't guard it off and be like, just autistic people. Because even the line of who is autistic isn't drawn. There are going to be people that are self-diagnosed, like, do I count? Can I come in? Which, in my opinion, yes. There are going to be parents of autistic kids who don't have a diagnosis but probably feel a lot of the same things that their kids does, are probably autistic, and want to hear from the adult autistic community and want to learn from the adult autistic community. There may be doctors and educators that want to learn from the community, and there are some things that I want them to have access to. There are definitely some things that personally I would like the autistic community, of course, to like keep to itself, but unfortunately, you can't really control that all the time. Sometimes there's a video or two that leaves the community, finds a different community, the general public, and then the general public doesn't always have the same reactions as like the autistic community does, which personally is something that I would like to change. My advocacy doesn't just revolve around autistic people and talking to autistic people. I would like just, you know, Joe on the street to understand more about autistic people so that he can help them if he ever wants to encounters a wild autistic person in his life, which he will, and you will too. You probably will today if you go outside. My personal estimate is 1 in 5. That's my personal estimate. I seriously think 20%. That's my personal estimate. About 20% of babies have colic. 1 in 5. 1 in 5 babies have colic. We need to do things on, do babies that have colic, are they autistic? We need to do a thing on that. How are there things on that? Okay, I'm going to look at things now. Okay. There's also sometimes posts that make from one autistic community to another, and not all autistic communities agree with each other, like I said. And that can bring some... Whenever dealing on the internet in general, please be cautious and use with care. There's a lot of bad stuff on the internet, and you can't monitor what you see. You can't. As much as you want to. As much as your parents want to. There's so many people here. There's so many ways of doing things. I can't believe I had access to the internet as early as I did. And there are a lot of conflicts that autistic spaces have that allistic spaces don't have. In autistic spaces, most people are probably autistic, and we know a lot about autism, right, ladies and gents and folks and everyone and y'all, right, y'all? I'm not trying to make anyone spooked or anything. Don't be spookered. Don't run screaming. I'm just saying this and addressing this because it can happen and does happen. And I think it's better to address it and be aware of it and talk about it. And then everyone else can notice it too, and hopefully be nicer to each other, to be honest, and have more patience. Because every autistic person is so different. Every autistic person is so different. You're going to have so many different opinions all the time. You're going to have a lot of autistic people online. Online is a easier space for autistic people to be a lot of the time. And because a lot of autistic people have very strong opinions that we feel are justified and make sense, we are more likely to comment on things. I'm not trying to put anyone down or anything. I'm autistic, so I'm the same way. I'm not being like, this is what's in there. Like, I'm in there. I'm also in there. I'm also this way. So one thing that's really common in autistic people to have, first of all, ADHD, and I think it's more of like an ADHD thing they say, is rejection sensitive dysphoria. It's linked to ADHD. But listen, rejection sensitive dysphoria is, I just think it's so silly sometimes, the labels we put on things. I'm like, well, it's great to know that it has one word to describe it, or in this case, 3 words, rather than just using a bunch of words to try to describe the feeling. But like, it sounds like BPD and a little bit of OCPD, which also sounds like undiagnosed autistic childhood trauma, which also sounds like BPD, and which also is silly how things are labeled like that. And I'm like, wait, are we all talking about the same thing? Because like, I am not diagnosed with any of those 3 things, like OCPD, BPD, or RSD, but I definitely used to be able to be qualified for all of them. But I also am just autistic, and that is also probably why I don't, and why they're like, it's just autism. Autism includes like all of this, I feel. Anyway, it's also so autistic of us to find classifications and cling to them and put things in boxes and label them. So, which means that autistic people are more likely to have sensitivities regarding rejection and feeling left out, feeling abandoned, feeling like a failure, or like they didn't do something perfect, getting feedback. Oh, I felt this so hard when I was a child. So I think therapy does help folks, because I've been doing therapy for like 12 years and I feel like a lot better in like none of these things. Honestly, therapy helps. But especially personality disorders? What? Can I do one video without giving a personal opinion? No, I can't. This is who I am. So you're going to have people that have a hard time dealing with rejection. You're also going to have people that just lack boundaries, lack knowing how to boundary. Doing a boundary, having one, upholding one, listening to one, acknowledging one, viewing one, seeing one, knowing one. We were never taught that. That's not like an intrinsic thing that we've got. Unless someone says, this is a boundary of mine that I no longer want, like, please don't talk about it anymore. I might not know. Sometimes I know. Sometimes I do say outrageous shit. But there have also been times where I have talked to people for longer than they wanted me to. And there have also been lots of times where I've let someone talk to me for a lot longer than I've wanted them to. So in which case, you may have people that are uncomfortable and not saying anything. And so there may be weird dynamics that others aren't aware of. And did you know that autistic people typically have trouble communicating with others, especially things like how they feel, even identifying how they feel and finding the words to say and then saying them properly? You know what's also not our best suit, probably, is emotional regulation. I say that because it's not a lot of people's best suits. Most humans in general were not really taught proper emotional regulation growing up. If that's you as a human person, may I recommend doing it yourself. Going to therapy if that's accessible to you, or doing whatever work you can, Google stuff online, to learn how to emotionally regulate yourself. That's something that we're supposed to be taught in childhood that most people aren't, but most autistic kids definitely aren't, because most of us were focused on survival in childhood. Physical survival. Most of us were in fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode most of our childhood. And even most of our adulthood sometimes. Fuck, I'm so sorry, guys. Oh my god. I just realized today marks 3 years since I've had my house. 3. And I'm still done, like, no projects. So with that comes differences in communication that may not always be the most pleasant. Someone who has poor emotional regulation likely takes it out on others. Sometimes people with poor emotional regulation may lash out or say things that, like, they maybe wouldn't want to say if they were regulated. Also, limerence, huge. Limerence is a pretty big thing. Limerence is widely felt in the autistic community. And then especially miscommunication. Especially considering that once an autistic person posts something, they cannot immediately answer the questions that another autistic person immediately has viewing that, like you would in a real life conversation. If I said something and then someone had a question, they could just ask me and I could clarify. But if I type something and a minute later 1,000 people have seen it and have all thought differently about it, they could have, continued on with that thought now for the rest of their lives. and I will never be able to clarify it. The other issue is, as an autistic person, I often don't know what others are going to need clarified. And when speaking to autistic people, I don't know what they're going to need clarified. Every autistic person needs something different clarified. Even myself, I always need clarifications. I never understand the question. This question isn't specific enough for me personally. Ask anyone that went to school with me. Did Paige ever raise her hand in class? And they're going to say, when was Paige's hand fucking down? Only when her mouth was open, which was, the other half of the class. So there's going to be a lot of autistic people that misinterpret, misunderstand. And not because they're silly boofy and just like, oh, you misinterpreted. Well, because they didn't receive the information they needed in order to interpret. And not every author of anything is going to know what that information may be. Personally, I try my best to ask as specific of questions as possible to try not to confuse any autistic people, because I know my audience and I know myself and I know what I would enjoy. But no one's a perfect communicator, and autistic people definitely are not perfect communicators. It's specifically a thing in the diagnosis for us. I know it says like social deficits in their standards, in their neurotypical standards, but I think let's get a little more specific into social deficit. What if instead of social deficit, they said trouble communicating to others exactly what they want to say? That also is kind of broad. If we go more general in that, I think that presents things like alexithymia, which I also am like, that's just a word to describe a thing. They're like, do you have that? I'm like, well, like I have autism, so like, yeah, it comes with like 35 other things, man. And like over life, you just get more. And then they become physical. B moment. A lot of dancers are autistic. A lot of dancers also have to stop dancing in like their mid-30s because they're just like so injured, and it's because of like all of the ballet. But what if it's also because like they were autistic and like just had EDS, POTS, and were hypermobile and weren't using the proper muscles? Oh my god, okay, shut up and literally do things. We've got heightened emotions. We're egocentric often, so not egotistic. We see our perspective and often have a hard time seeing things from another person's perspective, or seeing that there is another perspective, understanding that other people have full experienced lives and perspectives. I honestly think I'm better at that now. I think I understand that a lot better now, to be honest. But it's taken a lot of work, and it takes a lot of reminding still constantly. We take everything literally, but can't communicate literally for shit. We're all probably traumatized from childhood. I say probably. We're all fucking traumatized from childhood. I've heard some people be like, I'm not traumatized. We've never not seen an untraumatized person. So chillax, I'm not traumatized. Oh, were your parents perfect? Oh, you're rich. You've never experienced racism or ableism. You're autistic and you've never experienced ableism. Who are you? Nope, don't buy it. Don't buy it, Mary. And sometimes I see kids being like, I don't have trauma. And I'm like, you're a kid. Let's wait a bit, girl. Can't unpack all of that right now. We got poor emotional regulation skills, likely. Don't know how to boundary. A need to classify and organize and understand everything and get to the bottom and find the truth and know the truth. And that can be confusing and frustrating. What I can say about myself, especially in like my more masking years, when you're like a high masking person, you are constantly judging yourself. That's like the whole thing of masking, is really like hyper focusing on yourself and how others are reacting to you. It's only people who judge themselves that are worried about what other people think. When someone judges somebody, they really are taking their own internal monologue and just deflecting it on another person. When I see anyone judging somebody, I know because of an insecurity or something within themselves. I mean, like, if someone is picking on somebody, their only reason why they do that is because they see themselves in that person that they're picking on, and for some reason that's a part of them that they are battling against, and it has nothing to do with you. That's tough, because a lot of us take things very seriously and very too hard. There can be invalidation in certain spaces and ignoring, choosing what voices should speak and which ones shouldn't, what perspectives are valid and which ones aren't, making others be held accountable for your own trauma instead of you dealing with your trauma. There can be anger, and I mean, just like any space, there can be racism, sexism, ageism, homophobia, ableism. Still, we're not all the same. In an autistic space, there's a 12-year-old girl who just got diagnosed with autism, is just learning some things. There's a 28-year-old guy who lives in his parents' basement, and all he does is plays on the internet all day and trolls people. There's a 65-year-old woman who actually was diagnosed like 20 years ago but didn't tell anybody, and she just pops in to find memes. There's a 34-year-old dad who's here because he's got 2 autistic kids, but like he doesn't know that he's probably autistic too. There's teachers here that want to know more about autism. We've got 80-year-old people from Australia. We've got 20-year-olds from the United States. We've got 40-year-olds from the UK. You should always just be cautious wherever you are navigating on the internet. Cautious with what you're sharing and with whom. Be internet safe. So now I just kind of wanted to talk about a little bit more about my own opinions, like I didn't this whole time. I try to be serious sometimes. I try to like, okay, boop, 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 boop. But like, I just think I can't mask anymore in front of you guys. I'm just like, I'm done. I have to talk and be But anyway, personally, I already said that I think that the autism community has changed a lot and will continue to change. It was a lot of not autistic people talking about autism. It was a lot of moms of autistic kids trying to help out their kids. Whether it was in the best way personally doesn't matter. The point, I need help. I need help. What helps? What helps you guys? Now, those spaces are mixed in with actual autistic people, mostly adults, because it should be mostly adults on the internet. And I don't know if it was the time of the internet at the time where I kind of entered the space, or if it was the time that I was at in the space, like just the amount of time I'd been in the space, as to why there was so much anger. So what I'm really questioning is, did I feel that angry because is it a cyclical thing that everyone feels perhaps an anger after they're in autistic spaces for a while, after learning more and hearing from people that have opinions complete opposite of you and learning about real experiences that really suck and just feeling that anger for like your fellow men and yourself too, and anger for anyone who's ever mistreated you and anyone who's ever mistreated any autistic child, and you just anger. At first I was thinking that must be a stage of like in the autism community of going through that, but it may have just been me, and I should just talk about it as being me and not be like, this is what everyone does. What I do know at the time was I definitely wasn't alone in the anger. I felt like at the time, this is years ago, probably like 2020, 2021, when I was just getting into like the autism community. I honestly think one of the ways that I found community was by mob mentality. And when some people in the autism circle got angry, I was angry too, because they were my people, and whoever hurt my people hurt me. That anger, valid, but it wasn't always justified. When I entered the space, there was a lot of shit about autism. It was a lot of like, I felt really shit. I felt like there was making fun of me everywhere I went. Even the resources meant to help me, I'm like, this doesn't seem like about me at all. And I feel really left out. Like, this is really poop. And there were a lot of people who disagreed with me and who fought against me. And I mean, there still are. And there's a lot of people like that are autistic or in autism communities that don't like me. That's gonna happen. We're human people. I'm not going to expect everyone to like me. That's silly. I know it's not just me, because I know that people are still angry now. I see people angry. I mean, like, yeah, we have a right to be angry, but just because we have a right to be angry doesn't mean you gotta treat people like shit. Doesn't mean you gotta be rude. Doesn't mean you gotta shit on people. Doesn't mean you call people names. Doesn't mean you be a bitch. I personally have a hard time finding like a community of autistic people for me. I mean, as a public autism figure person, it's not uncommon for any space that I go in for people to be like, for people to not like me. And like, not liking me is one thing. If people are like, yeah, I'm just, not really a fan of Paige layle, but people are like, I'm gonna kill her if I ever see her, that stupid bitch, I'm gonna punch her in the face. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be here. This is dangerous. So that's tough. But some people just are like that. So personally, I found for me, really good communities have been anything that I've hosted that people have come to, because I'm like, okay, I know you guys want to be here and you guys like me, so you're not gonna be mean. You're not gonna like try to hurt me, right? I honestly believe that most people are good. I honestly believe that most people are confused. I believe that most people don't know what to do. And I believe that most people are kind of scared, and scared to show you that they're scared. Everyone has a story that would make you fall to your knees crying and pounding your fist at the ground and screaming to the universe, why would you let this happen? Everyone's got something, and that's why I want to be kind. That's why I try to be kind to people. Like, there's no reason not to be. especially the people that I disagree with. Because the people that I disagree with and the people that disagree with me are not going to agree with me if I put them in a less safe place. If I start yelling at them or calling them stuff, like, that's not going to make them agree with me. And ultimately, that's what I want. I want people to treat autistic people better. I want people to know more about autism. I want anyone to be able to feel like they can not know everything here. I want everyone to feel like they can be curious and ask questions and not know everything. You are allowed to be here and not know everything. You are allowed to be here to learn. I want that. This isn't about perfect anything. That they will know when they're ready to know. They'll learn when they're ready to learn. And people learn when they're safe. But they have to be safe first. And most people that are yelling are not safe. Most people are scared and scared to show you that they're scared. And the people that are scared to show you that they're scared need compassion. I'm not saying that they're entitled to your compassion. You don't have to give someone compassion, especially if they're being like really shitty to you. But like, you don't have to be dicks back. It's completely different if it's in person, but like in this online space, if someone is a dick to you, this is online. You don't have to fight back because it's not helpful for you, for them, for anyone. And I think that every community in general could do with a whole lot less fighting and a whole lot more listening to people, validating their perspective, understanding that every perspective, everyone's life is valid to them and their own experience happened to them. I want to have conversations with everybody, with every autistic person, with every autistic space. I don't only want to have conversations with autistic people that agree with me. What's the point in that? There are so many different issues that we can talk about within talking about autism that all of us can disagree on. But I think that there's one thing that we can all agree on. I think that there's one thing that all autistic people can agree on, all parents of autistic people can agree on, all therapists, all behaviorists, all teachers, all doctors can agree on, all social workers can agree on. We all want better for autistic kids. We all want better for autistic people, but we all specifically were kids once and know what it's like and see kids that are autistic and go, frick, there need to be more services. We want better for autistic people. We want to know more. We want to help them. We want to help families. We want to help. We want to help. It sounds like we all have the same mission statement. And so we should be sitting at the same table. If we have different views as to how to get to the goal, that's even more why we should be sitting at the same table so that we can all bring our little bees from all of our different areas into the beehive and figure out the beehive, working together to find the best ways to teach autistic people, to help autistic people live and feel okay. Like, we're all little busy bees. We're all learning and helping and bringing pieces together to show who we are, what we're doing. We need other people. We all do. Everyone. It does take a village. It's okay to disagree about things. It's not okay to be rude. It's not okay to be hateful. It's not okay to call someone names. It's not okay to be a bully. It's okay to have conversations. It's okay to be confused, to learn, to grow, to be forgiven. Here I give you the chance to be an imperfect human. I don't want to deter any humans away because of expected perfection. I don't have rules that I want you to follow. If you're autistic, your rules are your rules. If that feels good for you, it feels good for you. Who am I to say it doesn't? I can't. These are real traumatized people's lives. If I don't see someone's perspective, I go, well, I mean, that makes sense. I am autistic, and I know that I have trouble seeing other people's perspectives, especially if I think that mine's right. But also, that makes sense, because if I saw their perspective perfectly, then I would have the same perspective. So I guess that makes sense why I don't understand. I am not going to understand everyone's perspective, because I'm a complete different person. I've had such different life experiences. There are a lot of people with very different life experiences that come to the same thought. They're like, oh, they all led to this thing. Whatever. But everyone's journey is their own, and where they go or where they end up is their own. I really just would love everyone to end up in the best possible place. If I know some things that could help someone else like me, I want to share them, because being here, people share with me every day things that help. I don't think I would live as happily as I do if I didn't get advice from you guys all the time. Years ago, I had so many people asking me for advice. And I'm like, I don't know nothing. I'm struggling hardcore, dudes. Now I'm like, I know a few things, and it's not because of me. it's because I've tried and true from a slew of other ideas as well. I mean, some of them are mine. And we still learn so much every day. So listen, if you're autistic and you're going into an autistic specific space, may I recommend going into maybe even a more specific autism space, because just a generic autism space is not going to get everyone that's going to be your best friend. I also recommend, though, if you find people that are not your best friend, just leave them alone. Leave people alone. And be nice to people. Also know that it's not your job to talk to everyone and educate everybody. You can't do that. I know how frustrating it is and how it would be awesome to do that, but it's not possible, and it's not your job. If you are autistic and have autistic spaces that you really like, please comment below if you can link them so other autistic people could go. That would be really awesome. I'm going to have some resources below, like there are some local organizations in Ontario that I can hook you guys up with, and an app called ND Connect that you guys should definitely sign up to. Also, stay tuned for my Discord server. I hope that if you're watching this and you're just entering autistic spaces, that you do so with boundaries, holding your boundaries, having your own self-confidence, listen to others, but fact check your resources, and be confident in yourself. Know who you are, and to know what you will and will not tolerate, how you will and will not allow others to speak to you, and what you value to be online. If y'all watching this and you're in the autism community, please be nice. Be nice. I don't care what picture you're replying on or what video or what it is. There's always a way to talk to someone. I'm not saying be the bigger person. I see stuff I don't like and I'm like, that was actually pretty shitty. That was bold of you to say out loud. Like, that's not mean. You're an ugly, stupid. Like, why are you doing all of that? Why are you saying you look like you're, like, why are we doing that? Especially on my behalf, if any of y'all are like, I'm a Paige Layle fan, I really hope that you're freaking nice. I really hope you're nice. I really hope that you listen to people when they say, like, I'm autistic and I actually prefer this. I hope you're like, alrighty, swag. I don't, and that's okay. Remember that you can disagree with someone, but remember that they also disagree with you too. The way you feel about them, they feel about you too. You sometimes are no more right than they are. You guys are both equally right and not right to yourselves and to each other. If you're both talking about your personal experiences, then no one's more correct than the other. You're just sharing. It's okay to share, and it's okay. We're going to share different things. So yeah, just a heads up for what to expect, what you may expect, and to kind of say it out loud. I know that I've been doing a lot of thinking and reflecting, and I have a lot more patience and compassion now. Every person is just an imperfect person, and I'm silly for expecting anything more from people. I'm silly for expecting perfection from people. And I can be frustrated sometimes, but that still doesn't mean perfection is going to happen. And I am blessed with the ability to be able to communicate, not too badly sometimes, to be able to change people's minds and make them see things that maybe they didn't see before. I know it's possible. Honestly, I see myself in people screaming at each other. It's all just a reflection of you. So before you say anything to anyone, just remember that. Can you relate to them in a way? Are you kind of like them? Do you see them being scared? I'm not saying you have to like coddle them or anything. I'm not saying also if they're being shit and they're being rude, like, you don't have to be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm never like that. Like, don't be walked all over. What I am saying is we're all connected, and remember how you once felt. Remember how you feel. Remember how, like, you don't know how you will continue to feel. And everyone's at a different stage in their own autism journey, in their autism knowledge, in their autism development. Like, some people just got here. There are people coming every day. There's always going to be people that don't know everything. And it's weird and also not fair to expect people to know everything. It's not fair to expect autistic people at all to know everything, especially like without telling them. Like, just like subconsciously you must know how to act and talk socially. That's not fair. We can't do that with anybody. We have to talk about it with anybody. But we also have to recognize that every new autistic person coming into the space also has their life of trauma, and to learn everything about the autistic community instantly is way too much. I get so much information. I couldn't imagine trying to like take it all in at once, and being bombarded with anything, with any shit at all. That's terrifying. And I really hope that we can welcome others. If we disagree with people, like, disagree with them. It's okay. I share what I think, but if you guys don't think so, like, that's okay. Every person is a bee, and you're also a bee, and we're all bees, and this is a metaphor. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, you could follow. You freaking 60%. Next week, actually, I'm gonna hit you with the connectivity theory. I talk about it a lot in my book, so if you've read my book, you know. But I'm gonna be going over a little bit more also of the neuroscience and biochemistry of autism. So turn the notification bells on so you know. Also, no, I didn't get a haircut. I just have layers. My hair's still long. Shut up. I did this with my hair and I was like, wait, do Sydney Sweeney and I have the same face shape? Because I was like, there's no way this is gonna look okay on me. And then I did it and I was like, wait. Okay, love you guys so much. Peace out. Peace out, Girl Scout. Bye. This is the end of the video song. This video is to tell you the video's done. If you're hearing this, it's because the video's done. Go watch another one. Boop, boop. Have a good day. Love you so much. Bye.